Hello, this is Bunton again with your visual functional mathematics at level 2, section 1 on multiplication and division. Your lesson objectives are to know when to multiply and when to divide, to know why it's important and how to check your answers, to be able to give answers as whole numbers, and to know how to apply BIDMAS in maths calculation that involves several steps or functions. The keywords you will become familiar with during this lesson are multiply, of course, divide, which is to share, functions, that is process of solving problems, order, and check to make sure that you got it right. So in multiplying and dividing, you need to know when to multiply or divide. Some calculations will involve multiplying or dividing. Like with addition and subtraction, you won't always be told when to multiply or divide, so you'll need to work out for yourself what calculations to do. In this example 1, John needs to buy 100 large envelopes at 76p each. How much money does she need? Your answer? Each envelope costs 76p. So, you need to work out 100 times 76p. You cannot add 76p 100 times. That will take you a lot of time. So you have to multiply 100 by 76p, and your answer will be 7,600 pence, and when you divide that by 100, you'll have 76 pounds. You also need to know how to multiply and divide without a calculator for the non-calculator part of your test. Example 2. A TV quiz team has 12 players. The team wins £64,320 in prize money. That's good. And it's to be split equally between the players. How much will each player be given? What do? You have to share it equally. How? By using division. The £64,320 has to be divided between 12 players. So, you need to divide £64,320 by 12, and that is the calculation at the bottom there, which will give each player £5,360. Now, at this point, I need to make a suggestion to you. Although most of you have done your multiplication table up to 10 times, I would advise that you learn up to 12 times multiplication table because it helps. You know your number pattern. All you need to do is to start counting in 11s, 11, 22, 33, 44, and so on. And then the same applies to your 12 times table. Start multiplying or counting in 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, and so on. You will not be able to do it mentally at the first time, but you can be counting. If you have a pen and you make little dots, you'll be able to do it. Rows of dots in 12 dots, 12 dots, 12 dots, and you just keep counting, you'll be able to do it. Okay, but if you are able to learn your 11 times and 12 times table in addition to what you already know, it will pay dividend in your exams and in real life as well. So your answer is each player will get £5,360 prize money. You need to know also other methods, like for example in this example 3, a hire car company has 15 cars. They rent each car out for £515 a week for 6 weeks. How much will the hire company earn in total over the 6 weeks for the 15 cars? Now this example involves a two-stage calculation. First of all, you find out how much money will one car generate in 6 weeks. Then your answer, you apply it to the 15 cars. And this is how it's done. First, find 515 times 6, which is equal to 3090. 6 times 5 is 30, and then you put the 0 down on the 3, you put it underneath the 9, and then 6 times 1 is 6, 6 plus 3 is 9, that's why you have the 9, and then you continue. 6 times 5 is 30, and your answer is 3090. That is the income generated by one car over 6 weeks. Now you need to use that figure to find out how much income 15 cars will generate at the same higher price, which is 15 times 3090. You do your long calculation. 5 times 3090 is 15,450, and then 10 times 3090, remember that one is really 10. That's why you have a double 0 at the end, is 30,900. Add them together and you'll have 46,350. That is the money generated by all 15 cars. Always check your answer. It cannot be understated. Remember, we learned how to check our answers when we're adding and subtracting. Now you need to check your answer when you're multiplying and dividing, and it's the same principle. Okay? Multiply and get your answer, and then to check your answer you do the opposite. In this example you have 32 times 9, which is equal to 288. To check it, you simply divide 288 by 9, which is 32, or 288 divided by 32, which will give you 9, because 32 and 9 are the two numbers you multiplied to get 288. Again, remember, in an exam you only have to do one check. As long as it proves you right, you will get your full marks. Except if you're asked to show both checks, then of course you do it. Practice question set 1. What is the answer to 67,427 times 71? 2. What is 33,784 divided by 6? And how much is left over? No calculators. If you use a calculator, you'll get that second question wrong. 3. A newsagent buys 100 chocolate bars for £40 20p and sells them on for 67p each. How many does he need to sell to make his money back? Remember, question 3 is not about how much money he will make, but how many chocolates he will need to sell. So there's a little twist there. Be careful. Question 4. Jake buys 1,470 roses for 77p each rose. He sells bunches of 6 roses for £19 50p. How much did Jake spend on the roses in total? And then B, how much profit did Jake make from selling all the roses? So you're doing some more very interesting set of calculations now, a higher level of problems. So you need to think a little bit more deeply. And these are your answers for questions 1, 4,787,317. Question 2, the answer 5,630, remainder 4. Question 360 and question 4. A, 1,131, 90p. B, 3,645 pounds, 60p. Please note that the answers you're giving here are just the figures, or the logical answers, yes or no, as the case might be. When you're in an exam, you have to write your answer out more clearly to make sense and to add context to the questions you've been asked. Some questions need answers that are whole numbers. Real-life division questions can be tricky. You won't always end up with a whole number. But sometimes you'll need to give a whole number as your answer, and in this case, it's not about rounding up from 5 to a whole number or from 4 downwards. No, this is about a work situation where you have to decide as to quantities you need to obtain or to sell, as the case might be, or to use, as the case might be. Let's look at the example. Glenn is laying a new driveway. He needs 663 slabs for the driveway. Slabs are available in packs of 12. How many packs does Glenn need to buy? The calculation is 633 times 12, which is equal to 55.25. But he cannot buy 55.25 packs. There aren't enough slabs in 55 packs. So Glenn will have to buy 56 packs. He'll have 9 slides extra, but then he can keep that, and in case one of the slabs break, he can always replace it. That's what I do anyway. Example 2. Tina uses 2.4 meters square. Remember square? Tina uses 2.4 meters square of material to make a dress. How many dresses can she make out of 9,582 meters square of material? Calculation. 9,582 divided by 2.4 is equal to 3,992.5. But can she make 0.5 dress? Can she make half a dress? No. So what would she do? You need to give your answer as a whole number. So 3,992.5 is between 3,992 and 3,993. That isn't enough material to make 3,993. So Tina will only be able to make 3,992 dresses. Practice questions set 2. A large egg box holds 12 eggs. A farm has 1,450 eggs. How many large egg boxes do they need to carry all the eggs? Question 2. A school has 47 classes of 26 students each. A box of pencil contains 24 pencils. How many boxes of pencils does the school need to buy so that all the students have a pencil? I'll give you a clue to that. You cannot buy boxes that will provide less pencils because all the students will not be able to have pencils. That's your clue. And that is your answer. Question 1, 121. Question 2, 51 boxes. Don't forget, the answers you're giving here are just figures. You need to put them in context. Let's look at order of operations now. You'll sometimes need to do calculations that have several steps. You need to be careful about the order that you do a calculation. If you do it in the wrong order, you might get the wrong answers. So, how do we solve it? This is why you have to remember the rule of BIDMAS. It tells you the order in which calculations must be done. You first of all remove brackets, Then you work out indices, that is your squares or square roots. You divide, you multiply, you add, and you subtract. Work out brackets first, then indices, then multiply and divide, then add and subtract. For multiplying and dividing, you work out from left to right. You also work from left to right when adding and subtracting. Order of operations. Example 1. What is 800 plus 2400 divided by 400? First, follow BIDMAS. Do the division first. So 800 plus 2400 divided by 400 is equal to 800 plus 6, because 2400 divided by 400 is 6. Once you've done that, then you can go on ahead and do the rest of the calculations, which is 800 plus 6, which is equal to 806. If you do it any other way, as you see at the bottom there, your answer will be wrong. Try it and see for yourself. It's always useful to try something out. Example 2. What is open brackets 5 times 4 plus 10 close brackets squared? What that means is you have to do your calculations inside before you square your answer. Do the calculation in the brackets first. Use BIDMAS for the calculation in the brackets and do multiplication first. 5 times 4 is equal to 20. 20 plus 10 is equal to 30. And then you do the indices. So it's equal to 30 times 30, which is equal to 900. So the original sum, open brackets, 5 times 4 divided by 10, close brackets, squared is equal to 900. Example 3. What is 5 plus 15 divided by 2 squared? When you see a number written like a fraction, it's a division sum. That's what it means. That's why 5 plus 15 is over 2 squared. So apply BIDMAS. 2 squared is equal to 4. But then you have to treat that line, that division line, as a bracket. So it will be open brackets 5 plus 15 close brackets divided by 4, which will be equal to 20 divided by 4, which is equal to 5. Order of calculations using a calculator this time. Calculators follow BIDMAS. You need to remember that. Be careful when typing a calculation into your calculator. If you get it in the wrong order, your calculator will give you the wrong answer because it is designed to follow BIDMAS. If your calculator has bracket buttons, make sure you use them. The calculator will do the work out of the brackets. If it doesn't, then clear your brackets first before you put your figure into the calculator, and then you do the rest of the calculation. Example, what is 8 squared divided by, open brackets, 24 plus 8, close bracket. You work out the bits in the brackets first. So that is 24 plus 8, which is equal to 32. And then next you work out the indices, that is the square. 8 squared, the key for 8 squared in your calculator is that x squared. So you type 8 and then followed by x squared. You press enter or equals, you'll have 64. 8 times 8 is 64. Check your number patterns for 8 times table. Put these two answers into the calculator. 64 divided by 32 is equal to 2. Practice questions, set 3. You need to read this very carefully because it's a little bit confusing at first glance, but just be careful, okay? And follow BIDMAS. Question 1A. Open brackets, 2 plus 6, close brackets squared minus 3. And then question 1b, 2 plus open bracket 6 squared minus 3 close brackets. You'll find out that both questions A and B have the same figures in them, but the arrangement or the structure of the question is different. Be careful. Question 2. What is open brackets 360 plus 60 close brackets divided by open brackets 7 times 3 close brackets? Question 3. What is 5 squared minus 4 times open brackets, that is 6 divided by 6 close brackets? And then finally question 4. What is 16 times 4 minus 14 over 3 squared minus 4? Always apply BIDMAS and take your time. Write them out clearly. Think about it. Brackets first. If there is any bracket, if there is no bracket, you move on to the next bit. Indices. If there is no indices, or if you've cleared the indices, you move on to the next bit, and so on. And those are your answers. Question 1, even though it's the same figures you worked with, but your answer A is 61, B is 35. Question 2, 20. Question 3, 1. Question 4 is 10. Before we go, let's look at what we've learned. You now know when to multiply or divide when solving maths problems. You know how to perform long multiplication and how to perform long divisions with large dividers. You know that you must apply BIDMAS to solve maths problems that involve multiple mathematical functions or processes. You now know how to check that your calculations are correct. And finally, you know the order of calculations with or without a calculator. Calculators can be tricky. You need to make sure they're clear. You need to use those functions, bracket functions, square functions, and so on. Once you know how to use them, you'll be okay. And don't forget, when you have a new calculator, there is always a user guide inside it. If you're not familiar with calculators, please go through it and follow the instructions. Do some trial runs before you start using the calculator. Okay? And that is your lesson for today. I'll see you next week.